Hello and welcome to the JW Thoughts channel. Hey, if you thought that spin was pretty cool, you will enjoy this video because it is a brand new series and it's called Watchtower Teachings versus the Bible. It's a clunky title. I'm sure we'll work it out in post. But anyway, what we're basically going to be doing is looking at a teaching that Watchtower has that really isn't in the Bible, while simultaneously the way that they interpret this teaching is actually in direct conflict from what they do in practical terms. So if that's a little bit confusing, that's because I haven't fully fleshed this idea out other than 20 minutes ago taking a shower. Anyway, with all of that being said, this one's going to be about dress and grooming because I do find it fascinating what's actually in the Bible when it comes to how the creator of the universe cares if I'm wearing orange basketball shorts and a blue shirt. Like, where in the Bible can we find any regulations on the bizarre, I mean truly bizarre, too many pockets on your jacket, different colored shoelaces, you name it, it gets pretty wild out there. Anyway, don't forget to drop a like on this video. If you're wondering why I always say that, well, it's because it helps it get out to more people on YouTube. The more likes a video has, the more it goes out. So please drop a like on the video. Consider subscribing if you do enjoy this content. Let's do this thing. Alright, to kick things off, let us first examine what's in the Bible, because it's going to be a very short introduction. What does the Bible have to say about how God cares about what a person wears? Well, we do have these passages in the Old Testament giving very specific details when it came to the priesthood and, how they were supposed to do their embroideries and the tassels and the length and the type of material, and they weren't supposed to be mixing materials and all of this stuff. So in one instance, we do have a section of the Bible that does go into great detail. But overall, when it comes to just normal everyday witnesses, not people that are going and chopping cows' heads off and making their blood sacrifice to God. Wow, that was really grim. What are they instructed to do? Well, in the Old Testament, you have in, Deuteronomy 22:12, 4, something like that. Anyway, where it says a woman's not supposed to put on the clothing of a man, and a man's not supposed to put on the clothing of a woman.
Am I a pretty girl?
And then later on in 1 Timothy and in 1 Peter, it has verses where it talks about not having this elaborate way of dressing with the braiding of hair and the gold and expensive garments, essentially. So those are pretty much the only things we have to work with in the Bible. Now, what grade will we give out of 10 for Watchtower leaders and how they follow these very few specifics that are in the Bible? Now, I don't think we're ever going to have a situation where we get this huge breaking news where Samuel Hurd and Anthony Morris are out there hitting the drag circuit and putting on a good old show for people. Because I don't think we're ever going to get something like that. So I don't know whether or not this is the Old Testament verse really is going to be applicable here. But when it comes to this New Testament one about not with expensive garments or with gold, how are we going to get our way out of this one? Well, in that scripture in the Bible, it said it only applied to women. So is it okay then for men to wear gold? No. Is it okay for men to wear expensive clothing? It seems like a double standard to me personally, especially when we have just clear examples of governing body members wearing expensive suits, expensive clothing, or in particular their watches or perhaps their jewelry. Now, obviously the question isn't really, well, how did they get this? How can they afford to wear X watch? How can they afford to wear this? Well, does that really matter with our discussion here currently? Yes, maybe in a different context it matters, but for what we're talking about, it's what their actions are versus what the Bible has to say. Now, the Bible says that women shouldn't wear this, so maybe that's the way they get around it. But when we have these examples, doesn't it make you wonder, are they failing miserably when it comes to this biblical principle. Now, for those of you that have never been a Jehovah's Witness and don't really know what I mean by biblical principle, this is just a buzzword for, hey, we like to just make up rules and we like to just ignore other rules because we don't go by, the exact letter of the law, except when we do. We go by biblical principles. We try and get an understanding of how God feels about things and then make our rules based on that. Which that's a whole rabbit hole that we won't even get into. Anyway, so how does the governing body fare on our scale of 1 to 10? Bible versus governing body? I'm going to give them a 1.69 just because I decided to do that. Ha ha, he, slap your knee. It's the same joke's been made 1,000 times. Well, I guess we put a 1 on there first so it makes it funnier. Anyway, so now that we see that they don't fare too well, we would assume that they wouldn't have the audacity then to go and make up these artificial rules that are going to have a major impact in people's lives, right? You would assume that if there's a clear precedent in the Bible that they are breaking when it comes to the clothing that one wears. If they're directly breaking something that's specifically in the Bible, surely there's no way they would ever make up goofy, kooky rules about what a person wears. Unfortunately, it's not really the case.
Hold on to your butts.
Now, a discussion about dress and grooming and Jehovah's Witnesses would never be complete without talking about Toni Morris's talk. Yes, it's the famous one. It's been talked about. It's probably super hackneyed by this point. But I'll just give you my personal experience with it. It was, I should really do like the dramatic voice. It was 2014. I was could go like a hard, grizzled old cop. It was 2014. I'd been a pioneer for nearly 10 years. There I was sitting at the assembly hall, second row if I recall correctly, and Toni Morris, this governing body member, takes the stage. Him and his infinite wisdom. I looked up to him. I thought, this man will get me through Armageddon. All I have to do is suckle on his teats of wisdom and I will be able to inherit everlasting life. And I thought to myself, I'm feeling pretty good, looking pretty good, and I'm still awake as the last talk of the convention is happening. And then Toni Morris looks down at me sitting in the second row, and he begins this red-faced harangue about tight pants.
Inappropriate.
Yes, I was an active Jehovah's Witness when Toni Morris came to our assembly hall and talked about tight pants. And there I was, just sitting there, looking like, well, this isn't good. He's talking about my entire wardrobe here. And at that point, there was a building level of tightness. So it's become more and more stringent, I think, over time as this talk has been circulated more and more. But that was the beginning of, maybe it was 2013 that he actually did that, because it was for a few years where my life, every circuit overseer visit, meeting with the elders constantly about how close the fabric of my pants were to my legs and how tight my jacket was, even though there were other people there in the audience for various reasons that physically couldn't even button their jacket, and yet mine buttons just fine and looks good. That is inappropriate, and yet someone else that can't button their jacket, that's appropriate. It is so mind-numbingly stupid, this whole thing about tight pants. Another Watchtower classic that I like to reminisce and think about is the brochure that talked about what you could and could not wear at Bethel, what was appropriate and what was inappropriate. And one of the things that struck me was polo shirts. So it's really hot outside, and you're in the Bethel facilities back when they did the printing and everything, and a little bit warm in there. And you can't wear a polo shirt because that's considered too casual. And yet you could just wear a button-up shirt that had short sleeves, and that would be appropriate. So literally the difference between these two articles of clothing is a seam here and whether or not it's attached with buttons. That is the level that the governing body are willing to go to in order to control people in how they dress themselves. And that doesn't just go with respect to, like, if you're visiting Bethel only. These decisions that Jehovah's Witnesses have to make based off of the information they're receiving from Watchtower, from the information and feedback they're getting from the elders that are constantly, got the binoculars on and are always watching people, making sure they're not slipping up. Even at the latest convention, we had the thing where the girl wasn't even showing any skin or anything. Woo!
Hey, Olivia.
Hey.
Evidently, I haven't figured out how to talk to her about her clothes yet. I need your help.
I got this one. I know, but it's all about good spiritual judgment. Do you think that these trends reflect Jehovah's view of respectable dress? I know that you'll do the right thing.
She had ripped jeans with leggings underneath, and that was deemed inappropriate. The Watchtower, the governing body, the people that are making these rules absolutely are negatively affecting people's lives because it's so stupid. It's so dumb. It's something that's not in the Bible. These rules, even from a religious perspective, are not necessary. Now, if you want to go down the whole rabbit hole and talk about what point are we going to just cover people up to the point where we're just wearing Snuggies around all day long?
And when you need to reach for something, your hands are trapped inside. Now, there's the Snuggie, the blanket that has sleeves. The Snuggie keeps you totally warm and gives you the freedom to use your hands.
Now, just to go a little bit deeper into this subject, let's just look at a few examples that Watchtower gives of appropriate dress versus inappropriate dress, and just note some of the differences. Now, if someone is thinking or considering becoming one of Jehovah's Witnesses, they're going to study out of this book here. And in this book, there's an entire section, I think that's called, Does God Care What I Wear? Something to that effect. And in there, they go through and try and highlight all of these verses in the Bible that have nothing to do with anything. And so I just find it so fascinating that even if someone is not even a Jehovah's Witness, even if they're a prospective member, they are trying to prime them. They are trying to get them ready to fall in line when it comes to Watchtower's teachings. So I find it so interesting that even if someone isn't a Jehovah's Witness, but they're interested in it, studying with witnesses, on their way to becoming a baptized member, that they're starting the thought patterns now. Start as early as you can to fall in line and to dress in a way that we tell you. And I think it's really indicative of why they go through so much trouble for something that's simply not in the Bible.
Give me a drink. Give me a drink.
And I just wanted to tell you guys one story. I know I've mentioned it before, but I'll just hash it out real quick again. And it comes to my experience when it came to doing cart witnessing. Now, before you can be officially recognized to be someone that's qualified to stand next to a cart, you need to go through a 6-8 hour, something like that, training course on how to stand next to a cart. So I went there and I was just wearing my normal clothes that I always wear, and we made it through the entire day, and then we get to the real hands-on. Okay, now we get to go out into the wild and observe some experts and maybe even try it ourselves and see how good we are at standing next to a cart and not talking to anybody. So we watched them for like 20 minutes, and then it came the time for the people to participate. So like, okay, well, everyone, here's your station. But then the person organizing it, he had to pull me aside because there was an issue with my jacket. You see, my rain jacket that I was wearing, and it was raining, had pockets right here. So it just had some pockets here, like this one, but one on each side. And because of those pockets, specifically, he looked me in the face with all seriousness and said, well, sorry, you can't stand next to the cart because of, the way you're dressed.
And what's wrong with the way I dress?
I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, well, your jacket has all those pockets on it. It's like a little trendy. I'm like, your pants have pockets? They're trendy? Like, pockets. I'm not, you can't make this stuff up. Like, even in someone's wildest fantasy about how people would be controlled when they're in a cult, you never think of these situations that happen. So I wasn't allowed to just, because I had too many pockets on my jacket. Pocket?
Did you say
Pockets?
Yes, sir. With or without nuts.
Pockets? Pockets! 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 And then later on, we had another situation come up because apparently I was flagged at that point for being a rebellious person. I took to matching the color of my tie or the color of my handkerchief with my shoelaces. So I went on Amazon for $12 and bought a bunch of different colored shoelaces. So green, purple, red, blue, you know, whatever. I thought it was a lot of fun. And some of the other brothers in the hall, they started doing it as well. And it was just kind of a good, wholesome time. You know, you see someone, they got the different colored shoelaces. It was like a little club. It was just fun and wholesome. Anyway, so I was going to do cart witnessing, and this was when I was already fully awake, but I was still going there to keep up appearances and blah, 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 blah. It's a whole story. But anyway, I was wearing like some turquoise color shoelaces, and someone came up to me, a longtime friend of mine, in fact, and he was taking pictures of me. And he was saying, hey, we might want to use... you guys look so good today when me and my wife are standing there. We might want to use you guys in some of like our examples or our material or like our training manuals. And I thought there's no freaking way on planet Earth that Watchtower is going to let this bozo with his shaky iPhone 4 be the person that's going to take the photos that are going to go on jw.org. Like this, his line was just so BS. You could smell it from a mile away. Anyway, and then while he's taking the pictures, he's like going like this, zooming down to my shoes, and I'm fully aware of what he's doing, and I'm just absolutely laughing about the whole thing. And he was like, then he like walked away, sent it to someone. He was on the phone, I kid you not, for like 40 minutes talking about my shoelaces, and it just got me so tickled because here there's so many problems in the world, and here someone is taking their valuable time to do this cart witnessing. They are volunteering to do it without pay. It costs you. You have to take time out of your own work. You have to pay for your own food. You have to figure out how you're going to actually get to the location. So, you know, travel back and forth, parking. So it was actually kind of expensive in order to do that, especially for a poor pioneer. And with all of that in consideration, this man in his idiot brain is thinking the color of his shoelaces aren't right. Imagine you're like sweating and working at a food bank, and so one of the managers comes up to you and is like, I told you to wear sneakers. You can't wear tennis shoes. Like, what in God's green earth goes through these people's minds? But I think that story, plus what we talked about earlier, are really give us a portal into what is going on in the minds of Jehovah's Witness leaders. So let's wrap this all up and stamp it on the bottom. So, why the rules? What is the point of having all of this silly rules surrounding pockets and shoelaces and tight pants when the Bible doesn't have anything to say about that? It says just be modest. My personal hypothesis is they want to strip people of all forms of identity.
Shame! Shame! Shame!
In order to successfully indoctrinate someone and have them be a brain-dead, mindless follower of you, hanging at every single word, you need to first do like, I know this is really messed up what we're talking about, but first you need to strip them of their own personality so that way they become reliant on you. So, you know, tell them everything they're doing is wrong. Tell them that they can't do anything right. Tell them that they can't survive without you. And begin this sort of parasocial toxic relationship where anytime they have a question, they first need to go on jw.org and type that in order to get the sacred scrolls of wisdom. And that's like step one of building your own cult. So I think they do that with people, especially with children. And an easy way of doing that is, hey, if we all more or less look the same, it's a lot easier for people to start getting that hive mind. And as soon as someone wants to stand out and be different by having a few pockets on their jacket, or wearing something that's a little trendy, or having colored shoelaces, they are immediately seen as someone that could be a problem causer. He could really stir the pot because, whoa, if this person is allowed to do something and think for himself, that's very scary to a religious cult leader, because he doesn't want someone thinking for themselves. Because as soon as they start doing that, where does it end? Maybe they'll start actually questioning all of these teachings and things that we have. Well, we wouldn't want any of that happening, so try and squash it immediately like a bug. Now, the other aspect of this, which I think is the more funny aspect, the other one's a little bit grim, is I genuinely think that they are so terrified of people being gay, homosexual. Even in Tony Morris's Tight Pants talk, and I couldn't even believe it at the time when I was listening to it with my own earballs, how he was going on this rant about how it identifies you as being a homosexual. And I just couldn't get my brain, like, how? Like, what? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like, clothes are clothes are clothes are clothes are clothes. It's like when people complain about when I wear nail polish. It's like, okay, a color on my nails, that's considered to be something like, oh, well, that's very feminine. Oh, you must be a homosexual or whatever. Okay. Yet if I took the color from here and put it here, now it's cool because it's a tattoo. So the difference is like 1 inch, right? 1 inch difference between, hey, an inch is a lot, am I right? But no, the colors on your nails, or you just go up a little bit on your arm or something and you have a tattoo, and now all of a sudden that's cool. So one makes you manly, and you go 1 inch up, and boom, now all of a sudden you completely emasculate yourself by having nail. It doesn't make any like sense to my brain. I just always think, okay, so like, what if blue? Can I not wear blue? Like, where do these rules end? Can I get like a handbook, like a portal into your mind, so I can fully understand what it is with the nail polish and why it's so offensive? Because I simply don't understand that perspective at all. So all of this is to say, I think for the most part, we can just let people kind of do their thing. And that's totally fine. Yeah, just let people be humans. It's okay. It neither picks my pocket nor breaks my back. I don't really care. If you want to do that, I mean, some things I might think, that's a little strange. That's not something I would do. I don't personally really like it, but it's not like I'm going to go and attack you or call you a hooligan and shake my fist at you. What in the Sam hell are you kids doing out here with your fancy spiky mohawk, your green hair? Now get! Like, I don't want to be that, like, old curmudgeonly right winger, but at the same time, like, I don't care. It's fine. It doesn't matter to me. It's just as long as you're happy and cool with it and you feel like you're looking good, hey, you do you, man. It's all cool. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun to reminisce and think about dress and grooming. Let me know down in the comments if you have a suggestion for the next of the series. What are we calling it? The governing body versus the Bible, or Watchtower Doctrine versus the Bible. Basically anything that's a specific thing in the Bible that they ignore and then they make up rules for. So let me know down in the comments what your suggestion is for that. And I will see you next time.